guys, it's Izzy here, and today we are going to be talking about all of the books that I have completed so far in October. I have been doing Vlogtober, so I have been talking about these books every single day on this channel, but for a general wrap up for those of you who do not watch every single vlog, and mind you, we still have a week left in the month, the day that I'm filming this, and I intend to read every single one of those days that is left in the month, so there will be more books that I finish, but they're not going to be featured in this video. So either you can subscribe to watch the vlogs to be able to hear about those books, or you can add me as a friend on Goodreads. I will leave it linked down below in the pinned comment if you would like to see written descriptions of my thoughts on these books. Speaking of, we are not going to be talking about the descriptions of these books. That was in my TBR video at the start of the month, but we will be talking about my thoughts on the books that I have finished this month. Let's get into it. I've been trying to read all of the books that are on the long list for the Book of the Year award given out by Book of the Month. So these are books from their subscription service that they put out this year. And this one was on the long list and is also on the short list. And I actually really enjoyed it. I'm speaking of Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. These characters were so realistic. I think more so the females were more developed than the male characters, and that seems to be a common thing in the books that I've read lately. And I can kind of relate. If you guys know the Sims games, that franchise of video games, you make your own characters, and I always put so much work into my female Sims, and the male Sims I'm just like, yeah, whatever. This is person because I don't know a ton about male fashion. I just know more about being a female, so it's easier to make female characters than male characters. That I don't know if that is the case with writers. Maybe, because thinking of my own writing, I write both genders, and I just feel like my female characters are better developed, but male characters are something that I am personally trying to do better at, because I do think as a writer, you should branch out to all different ways. So it is something that I am developing in myself and developing in my writing, but that is a way off tangent that has nothing to do with this. But speaking of the female characters being developed, I enjoyed all the characters except Byron, who is a male character. There's just something off-putting about him. I don't know exactly what it was. However, we don't like everybody that we meet, so that maybe just makes the book a little bit more realistic. Maybe we're not supposed to like him, I'm not sure. In Black Cake, we traversed many time periods and locations in the setting of the novel. Wherever the scene was set, the atmosphere just added so much more to the story. I love when authors are able to do that. The writing was above average, and it was easy and quick to read, so it's a very accessible book. As you can see, there are a lot of like waves on this, but let me tell you, the book didn't flow very well, and that's the reason why I'm only giving this a 4 and not a 5-star. I mean, an ocean can be choppy, right? And that's what this book was. It was choppy. A lot of times the plot was just jumping all over the place, and I don't know, it didn't flow nicely. That was really prevalent at the start of the story and then the finish, but the middle, so the good chunk of it, that wasn't really an issue, but still, at the start and finish, I was just like, what is happening? I'm confused. It's choppy. It's not flowing well. Am I going to ever get into this story? This is a story that shows how people or families connect over time and locations and many battles in between the two. This was a beautiful book, and Black Cake was the one to get me to my reading goal in 2022. So this was the 80th book that I read this year, and I highly recommend picking it up. It is also on the short list for the Book of the Year award, so definitely recommend picking this up because it seems like a lot of other people enjoyed this book as well, not just me. Next we have my contemporary pick. I did have a 2-book TBR this month because at the start of the month, the first day, I had not hit my reading goal yet, so I still made a TBR, even though it only consisted of 1 book that was from my TBR jars, and it was the contemporary pick. This is Midwinter by Fiona Melrose. I got this book at Second Story Books in Washington, D.C. at their DuPont Circle location. Honestly, one of my favorite places. I loved it, and I totally recommend if you're ever in the Washington, D.C. area to go check it out. They do have several locations. I know there's some in Maryland as well, so just if you're ever in the DMV area, go check them out. The books are reasonably priced and it's a fun place if you love books. Totally recommend going there. I ended up giving this a 2 out of 5 stars though, which is kind of disappointing, but that's the thing. Going into a secondhand store, most of the time when I do that, I don't know the books that I'm buying. I don't go in with a set list of books that I want to buy. I go in being like, let's just see what I find. And this is one of the books that I found, and I only ended up giving it a 2 out of 5, but it's like Russian roulette. You never know what you're gonna get. This is a story that really deals with grief, but I felt like we were not given enough of a time period to understand these characters well enough. We see the characters when the traumatic event happened, and then when they are back in England. The traumatic event is the passing of, or the killing of, the mother of one of the characters and the wife of the other characters, the father and son. And so we see like the day of that, and then it goes into the future. I don't know how far, and I just feel like we didn't have enough time with these characters to really understand them and understand why they went through the grief the way that they chose to go through grief. The setting was, like the title suggests, midwinter. It's very dreary and wintry feeling. It was dull. All the blurbs on the cover suggest that this writing is top-notch, amazing writing, but it was just bland and dull for me. I do not understand where these people got the idea from, but that's the thing about art, about writing. We all interpret differently. We all have different taste, and this one just was bland for me. Didn't really enjoy it like I did with Black Cake or maybe some of the other books that I'm going to show you in this video. But the same can be said for the plot. Bland and dull. Those are really the 2 words that describe Midwinter. This is a story about 2 people, father and son, dealing with grief. This could have been so moving with those themes and of familiar bonds and what grief does to a person. I've talked about this a lot. I've really enjoyed books that are showcasing how a person deals with grief, because it is something that every human is going to go through in life. That is really depressing to think of, but we all go through grief. So it's interesting just to see how everybody's journey with it is different. And here, I just don't feel like this was written well enough to display that. Yeah, I don't recommend picking this one up. Next, we have a new release that I was really anticipating. In October, for my mood reading, I was really focusing on horror. As it is the spooky month, we do have Halloween this month. And the book that I'm speaking of now is The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. I really enjoyed the characters, and this read like a real memoir. They just seem so real. If you can't tell, I love realistic characters who are not perfect. We all have our flaws. I loved the sass that Mercy had, and then art, he was just kind of boring. I don't really understand why he was writing a memoir of all people, but yeah, you never know. The setting was cool, and I enjoyed the pop culture references that were spread throughout the book. It was perfect for this time of year, that being October. The writing is where my major problem with the Pallbearers Club is. This went on for far too long. There were chapters that were over 50 pages. Really, put your cutoff at 15 pages, please. And then there were paragraphs that were half the size of a page. Nobody wants to sit there reading that. So I do think maybe the audiobook might be the route to go with this one. So one of the things here is that this is a character writing a memoir, and then another character is like annotating and editing it. So Mercy tells Art that the average reader probably isn't going to like this because it's so long. And I'm like, that is so true. So I don't know how to feel about that. Like, it's just so confusing. It's mind-boggling. But speaking of how long it was, look how short this book is. It's less than 300 pages. And then it took me 3 times the average length that it usually takes me to finish a book. And yeah, I could not get through this. I honestly probably should have DNF'd it. But I am a stubborn person. I do not like to DNF. Sometimes I will, and honestly, I probably should have DNF'd this. I don't know if the writing needed to be better or if it just needed to be edited better. I liked the story here, and it was something unique compared to other things that I've read, but I'm going to end up giving this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I am still working on my 5-star prediction project. It looks like it's going to be wrapping up in December, so do expect a video for that in December or in January, so again, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, we have finished our nonfiction category in that And what finished that was She Has Her Mother's Laugh, The Powers, Perversions, and Potential of Heredity by Carl Zimmer. As this was over 500 pages, I did the audiobook for this and just followed along in my physical copy as well. She Has Her Mother's Laugh starts with the word heredity and the I don't know how to pronounce that word, I've never said it, but where that word comes from and what it means. It came from Latin or Greek, like that, I don't remember. But when it was really first being used was in medieval Europe and describing of who is the heir to the throne, where would the throne pass to, and that kind of thing. And then, so we start with that and we go span 500 pages, ending with what is the potential for human genetics? Where could we go with this? Could we make clones? Could we genetically engineer our DNA to make it easier for humans? And is that ethical? Should people be doing that? Some countries have laws for this and some do not. It's really fascinating just to think of everything that science can do, and really looking at this, how much science has advanced in the last century and is still advancing. It's quite amazing. I think it's best if the reader does go in with some prior knowledge, because a lot of this did go over my head, but a lot of this I did know some about from just having basic high school biology and basic high school science classes. So I do think that this is a dense read, so do be prepared for that. I don't know if maybe if I would have just read it physically it would have been better. I honestly don't know if I would recommend doing audiobook, ebook, physical. I think that's just a decision that you're going to have to make yourself. Now, this did not live up to the full 5-star because, as I said, it was very dense for me. But I still learned a ton, and I would still recommend this if you are interested in these topics. So it did get a 4 out of 5 star from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you made it all the way through, leave a DNA comment down in the comments, or DNA emoji down in the comments below. But I hope you guys enjoyed, as I said, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!